would you rather beat Georgia or Ohio State? I think everyone agrees these are the two hardest games on our schedule. Gerald, I will let you take this one. Who would you rather beat? You can only beat one of them this year. Who would you rather beat?
Yeah, so this is maybe runs counter to what I just said. But I would go Georgia in this setup. I think there are sentimental reasons for this. I think you think back to this past season, right? Texas, the biggest blemish on their schedule is the 2 losses to Georgia, right? That's the one talking point that I think separates Texas from being back among the elites in the way that they really want to be. And especially that first game was just not competitive. Texas had a chance to win that second one and things went sideways. So like when you think about like just in the spectrum of how Texas wants to present itself and how Texas wants to be as a member of the SEC and on the national level, like getting that Georgia monkey off their back is huge. I think the other thing is when you think about Texas's goals every year now moving forward is to make college football playoff and to compete for a national championship. And I think the win over Georgia does more for that case than a win over Ohio State would. One, because of the conference implications, right? Texas' ability to be one of the top teams in the conference, play for a spot in the SEC championship and ultimately make it in. And, those tough losses, those big game losses early in the season don't necessarily hurt your CFP resume as much as they would. Honestly, I think the committee seems to reward some of those tough games earlier in the season. And I think, again, Texas being competitive in the SEC, being one of the top teams in the SEC gives them a better argument for college football playoff seeding. And so ultimately, I think Georgia does more for the overall goals of next year than beating Ohio State. Now, I will say if Texas loses to Ohio State, the narratives and the online talk is going to be annoying, and I may have to just put my phone down for a week, but I'm still sticking with Georgia.
I agree. I think it is Georgia, but it does suck. I'm from Ohio. Most of my family, if not all, well, they all are Ohio State fans. I interact with Ohio State fans daily, so it would suck to lose to Ohio State. In fact, I'm very confident we're going to beat Ohio State, by the way. I've put money on it as soon as the line came out. I have this money from a bet that I finally got from my dad's friend that I said, hey, you want to do double or nothing Ohio State versus Texas? Because I'm that confident, guys. Like, if I had unlimited money, that money would be putting on Texas beating Ohio State. That's how confident I am. And I thought we'd lose to them in the CFP semifinal. I think we're going to beat them in the horseshoe. I mean, you never know. Obviously, it's college football and these two top 5 teams. But, yeah, I agree. I think it's Georgia. For the simple fact is, if you ask most coaches, what is your goals for the season? They usually say conference championship first, then they say national championship. I don't know if that's still the case with the way the college football playoff is set up, but that used to be the thing. When Nick Saban was asked, hey, our goal is to win the SEC championship, then win the national championship. When Kirby Smart was asked, our goal is to win the SEC championship and then win the national championship. I think that's the goal at Texas still. I think it's SEC championship and then national championship. I could be wrong because, again, the format has changed. But, we were actually undefeated versus Georgia. I don't know if anyone knew that until the last 2 games. I believe we're 4-2 now versus Georgia. So, or 4-3. So actually they did win one a while back, but they also claimed the biggest blowout win. Last year at Texas was the biggest win either side has had in that game. And that game was closer on the scoreboard than it actually was. It was 30-15. I can't believe Texas had a chance to tie that game at one point if we get a 3rd and 11 stop near Georgia's own end zone, and we weren't able to do that, which is insane because we got outclassed that whole entire game other than that third quarter for a snip for a period of time there. And we're 2-2 versus Ohio State. Surprisingly, we've only played them 4 times, one of them being in the college football semifinal this year. But, yeah, I would rather beat Georgia. I mean, it's also the thing now, guys, if you look around the SEC, we've kind of beaten everyone in every other sport. It's Georgia. We haven't beaten Georgia in the biggest sport and we lost to them twice, once in the SEC championship and at home. So I completely agree. I think we got to beat Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Texas wants to be mentioned among the elites of the elite, and I think that beating Georgia in the SEC puts them in the elites of the elites. I don't think there's a thing. I'm willing to put a period on that, right? Like beating Georgia in any realm of SEC football puts you among the elite of the conference, and so Texas's ability to be one of the tastemakers, for lack of a better term, in the Southeastern Conference, and its ability to stand among the peers that it wants to have in the Southeastern Conference comes back to. Do they belong on the same field as the Georgia Bulldogs right now? And they didn't look like that last year. And so getting that monkey off their back, I think would be huge.
I completely agree. Now, here's another question. If you had to bet money on what game you win, who do you think Texas beats? If it's just one.
Whew. I think Ohio State probably would be my bet. Kirby Smart's still on that sideline, and he gets the Nick Saban betting grace for me. I never bet against Nick Saban, and I'm probably never going to bet against Kirby Smart. I just think based on everything where the teams are right now, Georgia's still going to be Georgia. I think Ohio State, especially early in the year with what they're breaking in. Texas has the same questions breaking in, but I think Texas has more answers at quarterback, I think specifically than Ohio State does. So I'd probably bet Ohio State at this point. But again, there's a lot of emotional nuance tied up in that pick as well.
No, that's true. And I agree. I think Texas has the quarterback a little bit more figured out. I think we have the coaching staff more figured out because they lost a lot off that coaching staff.
Yeah.
Defensive coordinator, offensive line coach, and offensive coordinator. That is a lot to lose in one offseason.
Big turn.
For a week one game. And then also defense. I think we have more defense than them because they lost all their defense coming back. So I still think they're going to be very good defensively for sure.
Yeah.
Top 20 defense in the country, but they're not going to be, they were the best defense in the country last year. I think they were number one. I think Texas was number two in my opinion. So I just think Texas has more figured out for a week one game. I completely agree. If that's a week 5 or 6 game, I think it's definitely a lot harder going into Columbus. Week 1 makes it a little bit easier. And going into Athens, that place is going to be insane. A night game at Athens might be one of the 3 to 4 best environments in college football. I still remember that light show they had versus Notre Dame. That was some of the craziest stuff I've seen from a college football stadium. And they're excited, guys. Like, go check out ticket prices. Ticket prices for that game are higher than any ticket prices Texas has on the schedule to get in that game in Athens. So I agree. I think Ohio State, if I'm going to bet, and I already have, I think Texas will beat Ohio State more than they'll beat Georgia.
Yeah. It's going to be fun either way. I hope Texas beats them both.
Yeah, I agree. Go undefeated. That'll make it a lot easier. And that'd be a hell of a 12-0 because there's 3 really big games on that schedule that Texas can definitely lose. And honestly, if Texas lost all 3 of those games and they were close, I think most Texas fans, they wouldn't love it, but they would understand it. I at least would understand it. Jackson says, if it were me, I'd rather beat Ohio State, but that's just me. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Listen, this is 51-49%. I'll take – if we split one versus these 2 teams, I will take it. They're 2 of the 5 to 6 best teams in college football.
Yeah, if Texas is 11-1 and splits these 2 games, they're going to be a top 5, top 6 seed in the college football playoff. So I'm totally fine with that.
100%.